Hey everybody, it's Sean and Trey with Reactions to the Classics. Before we get started today, we just wanted to invite you to take a look at our Patreon page where we have all kinds of reward tiers, anywhere from reacting to an entire album to songs, and to support us for as little as $1 a month. It really helps us out.
And you can also check out our Facebook and Discord groups down below. Got a great community of people who love music. And all that to say, y'all, let's get to today's video. What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined again by my dad, Sean, and today, Reactions to the Classics, we're going to finish up the Beatles Anthology 1, and I'm excited to do so. We left in part 2, saw a bunch of live performances, and today we go up to a nice bluesy rendition of Can't Buy Me Love.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. Our other two parts are linked below if you missed those. It's takes 1 and 2. They recorded this in Paris. It's a famous song for a few reasons. Obviously, we all know Can't Buy Me Love, but also it's the first Beatles track to not have background harmonies and the first one to feature only one main singer in Paul. The other thing is, up until 1991, when Billboard changed the way they did their singles charts and the way they tracked it, this song had the biggest jump to #1 from number 27 to #1. You hit it, the bluesy style. It's just strange to hear it this way. I liked it, but it would have been weird if it would have stayed this way. But it showed you how they just experimented, like, how's this going to sound? Now let's try it this way. So I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I did too. The bluesy nature to a track you know inside and out.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's one of my favorite parts of this series. You had a part in there where Paul kind of broke down, went a little bop dooey, something like that. So I thought that was neat. Obviously, I don't think it lived up to the original, but that wasn't the idea of it. And then we're gonna keep on trucking now to All My Loving. This is from the famous Ed Sullivan show.
Yeah, and he actually introduces it on there, so I thought that was a cool thing there. You can hear the audience. It's decently loud. It's not horrible, but it's decently loud in the way the recording is. And because of that, I don't think the guys sound great. They don't sound bad, but I don't think they sound, and they're not going to sound album quality. But for me, it was fine. It was cool being able to hear Ed introduce him. And
yeah, I mean, we had the energy, the great harmonies, the screaming girl. So you must know it's the Beatles live. That's what I wrote down in my
And it was their opening number of their first performance ever on Ed Sullivan. So for those of you who were alive during this time, everybody, it's one of those watershed moments that everybody remembers.
Yeah.
So everybody
right where they were.
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to bring us to You Can't Do That. It's take 6 from the EMI studio. It's from the album A Hard Day's Night. Written by Lennon. He had some other songs in this vein. I don't think John sounds very good on this, but who knows what they'd done in the studio before then. Thought it has a really good guitar. It's still cool to hear.
Yeah, I like the 1, 2, 3, 4 intro from him, almost
too.
In a sarcastic manner. We have some decent banter in this last third of this record, and then we move on into one of Paul's early ballads, one that Lennon was particularly a fan of, said it was like the first yesterday, and I Love Her. This is from take 2, February of '64. And I just thought this was a great rendition of the tune, a bit more liveliness and energy than the album version. So, and Paul again breaks down, chuckles at one point.
Yeah, I was going to say he's laughing a bit. I mean, that's kind of all I have for it, too. It's less than 2 minutes long. Pretty good offering. That brings us to A Hard Day's Night, obviously the title track from A Hard Day's Night album. It's 154 on the Rolling Stones Top 500, and they won a Grammy for Best Vocal Performance. This is immediately recognizable by the Rickenbacker 12-string. Take 1, Trey. So the first time they'd ever done this, I just thought that was really cool to be able to hear.
Oh, yeah. It's rough around the edges, obviously, but still, I mean, for a first offering, it was a pretty darn good tune, I thought.
It was, and it's also famous in chart history as well, because the song was #1 in the U.S. and the U.K., and the album was #1 in the U.S. and the U.K., all at the same time. First time anyone had ever done that. One of many things that the lads did that no one had ever done.
Beatlemania, full throttle.
Yeah, and many of these records still stand today. That's going to take us to I Want to Be Your Man. And the group pre-recorded 7 songs for the show Around the Beatles in April of 1964 at IBC Studios in London. Special was filmed on April 28th and first broadcast on May 6th. So that's where the next few offerings are going to come from. So they didn't sing live there. They pre-recorded these versions. They didn't use the original pre-recorder, so I just thought that was an interesting thing. I'm sure somebody out there watching knows why it was done that way. This song is famous. I remember it when we reviewed it back in the day, because they weren't done with the song, and then they finished penning the song, and while Mick Jagger was sitting in the studio with him, and they gave it to the Rolling Stones first, and then Ringo sings it. And John and Paul,
they thought it was a throwaway, so they're like, let's give it to our dude Ringo.
Of course it's a throwaway. We'll give it to the Rolling Stones and Ringo. If it was any good, we would have kept it for ourselves. So, I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, well, I actually thought it was better than the album version.
I do think it's better than the album version too, but probably because since they re-recorded it, they had already probably sang it several times, and obviously the more you sing something, the sharper you're going to be. So I agree.
A bit more energy, and it just kind of, with the tempo, fits a live setting more, and let Ringo's voice go a little bit. And then we go into another cover, Paul's Long Tall Sally, of course, the Little Richard cover, as they were humongous fans of Little Richard. And again, I thought it was another good cover version. I think they chose a good set list for these live tunes, because you want some rock or some energy, and I thought they brought that here.
Yeah, I thought it was really good, and I thought as it is on the album version, I thought Paul's vocals on this are incredibly strong. And that brings us to Boys, Ringo on lead vocal. This was originally recorded by the Shirelles and was on Please Please Me, and they recorded it for that original album in a single take. I think the instrumentation on this song is very strong. Unfortunately, I don't think the vocals on it are very good.
I like my man. They gave my man Ringo two out of the last 3 tracks.
Yeah, I thought that was a interesting way to go about it.
I did prefer I Want to Be Your Man to this, but then we get into a cool cover of the Isley Brothers' Shout. It's in the original version is in the top 150 of the Rolling Stones top 500 songs of all time. Just an iconic tune, and it was cool to hear the Fab Four do it. They especially at the point where they're singing a little bit softer now than the
it's so cool.
It goes down some, then let's go a little bit louder now. But it is a little interesting because they chopped 30 seconds off of this for this version.
Yeah, they did. And I don't know why they did that. I didn't really come across an explanation. I don't know why you would do that, because this song, it's just fun. Man. You can just imagine being in the crowd. And Shout is definitely a song that, it's fine on the radio, it's fine through the headphones, but man, live.
Yeah,
it's all about audience participation. So it was a great choice for him. My only note on this was good. It was a really good performance. Well, next up, we're back in the EMI studios, and we have takes 2 and 3 of I'll Be Back, and they're back to back, no pun intended, on this album. Originally, John had conceived this as a waltz, so on the first one here, on take 2 that we have, he's singing in 6/8 time, and he breaks down towards the end of it and goes, "It's just too hard. It's too hard to sound." I wish I could do a great British accent, but I want to insult our friends in the UK and even attempt it. And then he goes to the more common 4/4 time on the second one. But man, it was great just hearing them mess up, hearing them just being real in the studio. I just thought it was a really fun way to be a fly on the wall.
Oh, absolutely. The song itself is solid, but the real gold here is just hearing that breakdown
and the different arrangement in the first
song. Exactly. Seeing how these songs progress really is the highlight of these anthologies, and I'll Be Back is one of the prime examples.
Yeah, and on that take 3, John starts laughing a little bit.
Yeah,
the harmonies are off a little bit because I'm sure getting the rhythm of all that down was next to impossible. But a good behind the scenes look there. Next up, we're to You Know What to Do. It's a George-led song that's never been released until the anthology because it was misfiled and they thought it was lost until the early 90s. The stage that this was recorded in is simply Ringo had tonsillitis. They're about to leave for a tour the next day. So they bring in a replacement drummer. They rehearse with him for about an hour. And then you've got the other 3 guys remaining. You got Paul, George, and John. So they're in the EMI studios and they decide to lay down a few tracks. So George lays this track down. John lays down No Reply. And Paul did It's For You. Now, George's first contribution to the Beatles output was Don't Bother Me, recorded in September of 63. His next contribution was not until I Need You, recorded in February of 65. Asked about this in 64, and referring to You Know What to Do, Martin explained that Harrison got pretty discouraged when we didn't like one of his tunes. Well, it turns out this was the tune. And one publication rated this as the worst Beatles song of the 227 in their catalog. This is in the running. This is really rough for me. I don't know. What did you think of this?
Yeah, I thought the lyrics were cheesy. And here, I think, highlights how valuable Ringo was, because there's no drums on this tune. And as a result, it was pretty lifeless, and the vocal performance wasn't great. So I see why they put this on the chopping block.
Now, I think in George's defense, right, this was a demo. The song probably wasn't finished. He just went in there and laid it down. So, I mean, obviously for John's track, we got the finished version. Oh, this was cool to hear the first one, but poor dude goes in there, weighs down a demo, and we're releasing it, barbecuing it. So I do feel bad for him for that.
And then from that same session, we go to the No Reply demo. Paul's on drums here, George is on bass, and John is on guitar, obviously, and lyrics. And it's just, again, cool to see. You could feel that they were having a good time as they were recording this.
They were. It was great. They were singing the wrong words and laughing. And as we know now in retrospect how difficult their tours were and everybody screaming and everybody trying to mob them. This is the day before they go out. It was good that they could go in the studio and just chill and do what they did, you know, to get into this to begin with, just go make some music. That brings us in to Mr. Moonlight. And this is takes 1 and 4. The first one, though, broke down immediately. It took about 7 seconds. Take 4 was complete. Had a frantic slide guitar by Harrison. I thought it was pretty cool sounding. I actually liked it better than the final version.
Yeah, I think that it didn't have the organ that the final version had, and it was neat to see the foundations of what would be a Harrison signature, obviously, with his slide guitar in, you know, the early 70s, and to see that progress a little bit was neat. And then we're going to move on to a song I never heard, Leave My Kitten Alone, take 5.
And this was our first complete full band song to be discarded since How Do You Do It in September of '62. No one knows why it was rejected, although some have suggested it was dropped in favor of Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby in order to give Harrison a lead vocal. This song's not bad for me. I'm sure when it came out it was really cool since, you know, it hadn't been out on anything. John's vocal was very powerful on this.
Oh yeah, I think this would have been a welcome addition on Beatles for Sale as opposed to maybe like rock and roll music or something. Another Lennon cover on that, because his voice is just, like you mentioned, so powerful.
It's early on, man. It's great stuff.
Yeah, it honestly reminded me of some of his early solo work where he really goes in, just the way his voice was sounding. I was highly impressed with it, and it was cool to still hear a new Beatles tune as we're going through this. And then we're going to keep on trucking
with No Reply. So the first one we looked at just a couple songs before was in June before they went out on tour. Now they're back. It's September, so now they're trying to lay it down again, but it's got a lot of the same stuff. They're chattering, they're laughing, they keep singing the wrong words. They keep singing, you walked hand in hand with another plank in my place. I just love this version because of the reality to it, the realness of, we're in the studio, here's what it is, and they were still laughing and having a good time.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the things, like the banter fades off at the end after, 5-6 seconds. I wish we honestly had more of the banter.
Yeah, I'd just like to hear the whole session.
There obviously is some more stuff in there. So that would be my only complaint on that tune.
That takes us to 8 days a week. It appears twice in a row here. It takes 1, 2, and 4 are the first one's only 1:25 long. It's the first song the Beatles took into the studio unfinished to work on the arrangement. That was a huge American hit. The group didn't think highly of it, went and called it lousy. Then we'll go to take 5, which is a complete version of it. I thought it was good.
Oh yeah, this is one of my favorite Beatles tunes, honestly. So to hear it in
even though John thought it was lousy,
to hear it in this format was awesome. And I believe it was George at the start, during one of those earlier takes, saying, "I'll try to remember, John, and if I don't, well, that's just too bad."
I love that part, man.
Something along those lines. So a great rendition, and then we finish out Anthology 1 with a Paul track, of which there wasn't a ton of on this latter third, but the ones where he was, the lead vocalists were really powerful. Kansas City, Hey Hey Hey. I actually like this more than the album version that appeared on Beatles for Sale. I just thought his vocals were tremendous and the energy was, ramped up a little bit. And so I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it's been a fun journey going through Anthology 1. 3 parts for that. We're going to kick off Anthology 2 in about a week and a half if you're watching along in real time. That's also going to be 3 parts, so we're just going to keep trucking through.
Keep going, man. This has been really fun, and now I'm excited to, as we start to ramp up to their peak period, hear some more of what Ballads got in store. And thank y'all so much for watching. Let us know what you think of Anthology 1 as a whole down below. And if you enjoy this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, as well as hit that subscribe button if you're new here. We upload pretty much every single day. So thank you, Dad, for the research.
Loved it.
And until next time, y'all, happy listening. Thanks for watching, and we will see ya.